Hello and welcome back to the Point 99 podcast. For anyone who's not familiar with the show, the Point 99 podcast is a running podcast made by runners for runners. If you're new to running, we hope to have topics and discussions that will help you along whatever path your journey is taking. Or for any seasoned runners, maybe some stories that will have you empathizing with our experiences. Whether it's lessons that we've learned during our own journeys, embarrassing stories, or heartstring pulling moments. We hope you'll stick with us while we try to share some good vibes, motivation, and positivity. And hopefully we can have a laugh along the way. I'm going to kick things off this week with a massive thank you to everyone who got in contact about the last couple of episodes and all the positive feedback that you've had so far. It was fantastic to be joined by Rachel on episode 2 and 3 to cover her pre and post Amsterdam experiences. It was honestly quite refreshing to have the highs and lows to be able to give to you guys, to show that it's not always just positives all the time, which social media and the internet generally can be really bad for portraying, because a lot of time people are going to hide the negatives or what they perceive to be negatives. And we do actually cover that in today's interview, but it didn't go quite to plan for Rachel. If you've not heard the episode yet, or at least episode 3, I highly recommend taking a listen back and see what you think and find out how Rachel got on with Amsterdam. As far as Amsterdam is concerned with my own running, I have only just got back out as of Monday. I've been out twice this week already, just taking it easy. I would say easy. The paces aren't easy. The heart rate isn't easy, but I'm not going out there to go super easy as in training for a marathon, zone 2 stuff, but I'm also not going out to break any records. I'm going out to enjoy running, which as much as I've enjoyed the whole training process, the last 16, 17 weeks has been a massive undertaking. It is just something else training for a marathon. So I've really kind of taken a step back just to enjoy running again without the pressure of having to achieve something at the end of it. I took last week off away from any physical exercise, weights, strength and conditioning, running, other than walking, to just give my body the best opportunity and the best chance to recover. There's so much that could potentially go wrong from putting undue stress on the body after a marathon. And as I say, in the previous marathons, I have gone out within a few days and it's not been great. So I've really listened to my body. I've listened to the advice from others as well and just really relaxed. And it was great to be able to do nothing for a week. But try to tell that to my head. It was a bit of a struggle to not want to go out and run. It's so good to be able to get out and just be at one with yourself. But I've got there. I'm back out. Back listening to other podcasts, back listening to books, music, because that's when I really do it. It's my own time. But glad to be back, and I'm sure I'll be smashing all sorts of different distances again soon. But at the moment, there's no plans to sign up for any events. I'm just taking my time, taking it easy, and as I say, just enjoying the love of running again. As far as running goes for others in the community, however, there were a few events on over the weekend, but the particular events I'm going to cover are the women's and men's 10Ks that took place, I think, both in Edinburgh. So we had a few names that are regular to my own feed and some that are regular to the podcast. So to cover the women first, there was Di Brander, Annie and Lauren, who were the running girls, Scott's Lassie Runs, Nadine, Eileen runs for Sanity, Cat Runner Mum running short stuff, the lovely Lane, and Geese on the Run. A few PBs blasted there, a lot of happy faces, a lot of smiles, and that's all positive. It was great to see everyone doing so well. On to the men, however, we do have I'm going to say Owen. I think it's Owen, who is Scottish runner. Similar name to our Ryan, Scottish _ runner. But Owen had the name first, and he did a fantastic time chasing the Edinburgh runner, Jace, who got his PB in the distance. He was a little bit disappointed recently when I was getting closer to him. I think I might have beaten him when I did my 10K effort at Inverness. So he is once again ahead of me. He did phenomenally well. And he was also there with Miles with McCracken and Runshine on Leith. A special, massive shout out, however, to David Wright, and that's David Wright 1989. He is the face and name behind the Wright 5K, I think it was. It took place earlier in the year that we gave a shout out to. He actually finished first and he was absolutely flying. He is a phenomenal athlete. Mega congratulations to David. But as I say, it was fantastic to see a feed of smiley, happy people, to see PBs getting smashed and just generally everyone having a great time in the sun. Otherwise, I don't have much to cover from the community or from my own perspective. I'm just, as I say, enjoying being back out running and watching everyone else smash their goals. So we're going to stick with the Edinburgh theme, however, and move on to our guest for this episode. I make reference to it in his introduction, but my guest today is perhaps one of the biggest supporters of the podcast and has been since day one. But moreover, he has been a massive help to myself in the past few weeks, especially on the run up to Amsterdam, as I was having a few doubts about my own abilities and what time I was going to do. And in reality, the prediction that he came up with and a few others and the support that he showed me was bang on. I got really close to what they thought I was going to do from all the training that I'd done. It's not something that comes natural to him. He's quite a shy guy, but at the same time, he is also the figurehead of the EH3 milers. So he's used to sharing wisdom, guidance, and support to a number of amazing runners, a big social group. But we're going to learn more about them as the chat goes on. This season is proving to be a season for firsts for the podcast. Not only was it the first back-to-back episodes with the same guest, but now it is the first time I've had a guest come back to me and ask if we can re-record the interview that was previously recorded. For the most part, for the rest of the season, it's pre-recordings that took place in advance of episode 1 with Will from Active Route. I thought I will get ahead of myself, make my life easy, and for the most part, it seems to have worked. The episodes sound really good, and I thought this one sounded okay, the pre-recording, but he was quite nervous at the time, wasn't really sure how everything would come across, and we happened to meet up in Edinburgh a number of weeks ago for Patrick Watkins being in town. The drinks were flowing, the chat was amazing, and yeah, everything kind of just gelled a lot more. And he asked the question of could we re-record, and of course I'm going to do everything in my power to make a guest feel happy and comfortable with the result of their episode. So we've re-recorded, obviously, and this is the result of it coming up now. So I think without any more stalling, I'll introduce a familiar name to the podcast for anyone who is a regular fan. And that is chris.runs.a.lap, Chris Evans. My guest today is yet another podcast first, being the first to ask for his interview to be re-recorded. Since he's already heard the original introduction I've penned for him, this is take 2 of my own. During the first recording, I called him an enigma or an international man of mystery, but I've since changed my stance on those, especially now that I've had the privilege of meeting him a couple of times since the first interview. The tally of ultra runner guests also rises as he is once again another ultra runner. Sure, he may be a multi-event ultra marathon finisher, but that doesn't make him a bad person. Maybe just a crazy one. Anyone who's had the honor of being in his company or had him slide into their DMs will attest to that statement, as he is no stranger to humor and using it as a tool to push others to achieve their goals. But humor and self-torture through ultras aside, he is the current figurehead of the EH3 milers, which I guess is where his ability to share wisdom, guidance, and support through humor shines the brightest. He really does make running inclusive for all. The most important part of everything that I know about him, however, is how much of a support he has been to the podcast. So please help me welcome today's guest, once again, Chris Runs a Lap, Chris Evans.
Hi, Steve. It's funny listening to a re-recording. So.
A re-recording of a similar intro, but different. Yeah.
I was all prepared for the original one as well. I'm not.
Did you take notes? Did you take notes? And you're like, I can take the mick out of him for this, that, and the next.
No, I mean we've still got the shoes to take the piss out of, Steve. So.
I can't wear them anymore. It turns out today I happened to say to Jace, the Edinburgh runner, about orange being the fastest color because his pal was at Miles with McCracken was all dressed in orange for their run club, and he's like, "Oh, that'll be the Rangers fan in him." And I've realized I'm gonna have to burn all my fast orange colors now.
we had Alex came down for a Sunday run, so that was his longest one since Loch Ness when you seen him up there. He turned up dressed in orange as well. And I thought it was a tribute to you, but
it's contagious. Tango Man's been out.
Yeah,
you've had a good day though.
All good, all good. Just busy as usual. We've got Halloween run tomorrow, so final preparations for that. There's usually a few secrets and surprises.
Are you dressing up?
Secrets and surprises. Yeah, there'll be some dress up. There'll be some jumping out of bushes or something like that. But should be good fun.
Good. Will Uncle Lee be there, do you think?
I don't know. We've not seen him like a couple of months back. Him and Ali, who was on Young Hearts last week. So they started a Thursday night. So they've been mostly channeling their time into that, but it's been going really great, especially like, so for those that don't know, EH3, it's a little 3 mile in the city run to the pub. It's, generally not hardcore trail runners or anything, but we're actually in a position where there's a good solid sort of 15 going up into the hills after dark, into the Pentlands. I'm someone that wouldn't normally be comfortable out in the trails after dark, but when you're up with another 10 plus really good strong headlights around you, it's a really good feeling.
I mean, you managed to convince Patrick Watkins to go up the Pentlands in the dark, in the heavy blowy wind, without him having a head torch on, and you didn't lose him off the edge of that cliff he was stood on. So, I mean, positives.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was in for. He also didn't know he was on the edge of a cliff. It was about, I think we had about 40 mile an hour plus gusts, and he was right on the cliff edge. But yeah, I sent him a photo a couple of days later of where he was standing. And why we were all standing up on there screaming, enjoying it. But yeah, it was a great night.
So the takeaway there is you can be safe in the city centre running the shorter duration, or you can go up the Pentlands in the dark and you're still going to be safe. And unless you're with Lee, then you might get a little bit lost. But tangents aside, he gets a ribbing about that enough.
He's getting better. He's getting better. We're looking after him.
An old dog can learn new tricks, you mean?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. Do you want to start with the EH3 milers then, since we mentioned it there, and then we'll backtrack a little bit to the your formative years of running. You've just indicated there EH3 predominantly is the area of Edinburgh, and you run around that set area pretty much, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It's just where we started. So a guy, Dan from New Zealand, he was living over here at the time, and at that time, the choices were significantly more limited than just now. But basically, you had the old athletics clubs, and then there wasn't much in the way of like pure social running away from athletics. So he just set up this pub meetup over on Meetup, free to attend thing, and I joined about 3 months into it. But it's like I've never ran consistently. I've done, I think probably before this, I was about a park run every 3 months, and I know a lot of you have got good experiences of meeting people at parkrun, but for me, you turn up and you don't speak to anyone new and you leave. Like I didn't do volunteering or really put myself out there, but yeah, that's still the experiences I feel at parkrun. No offense to it. Whereas going along to EH3, you were welcomed in, you met new people, and then now it's just like having a little local pub to go to every Wednesday, whether you're running or not, and it's a brilliant group.
I mean, that's the most important part to take away is it's always the pub. The pub is the start point or the end point, and crucially where you're all going to end up anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's very much social first. Running, we just happen to have a run. Really, I don't think most people, most people aren't geeing themselves up for it. It's just part of the miles that we clock up over a week. So it's brilliant.
But I can attest as well for anyone listening, you want to head along if you're in Edinburgh or in the surrounding areas, and you want to head down. He comes across as quite a shy sort of guy, but get a couple of drinks in him, and he is the Joker. He's everyone's friend. As you were
Wednesday's definitely loosen up later on.
Yeah, you were in very good form, and we met up with our already mentioned Patrick Watkins on his visit up from well, where he'd been. He started off in England, came up on his adventures, and yeah, that was really good night out. Enjoyed that, and it was properly good to meet you because I met you once before. We're going to mention the event later on.
I was less jolly that day. Let's say that.
Yeah, you were less jolly. Well, you were happy when you were in your tent box, but yeah, and then we had the joy of running with you at Parkrun. But I could see what you're meaning there. You were quite happy. Maybe that's just because me and Patrick took off and left you. But we were quite happy jogging away, and I was talking to people who had race shirts on from the Baxter's Loch Ness because I recognised it. But even some of those people didn't really want to talk. It's different at my home one because I know everyone.
You're down in Edinburgh, Steve. That's maybe.
Yeah, nobody wanted to talk. Everyone seemed to be focused on trying to get round without keeling over. And I suppose it was very, very wet.
It's really wet. It's a horrible hill at the start of that one as well.
I loved it. I thought it was great. Maybe that's just the psycho in me.
It's the future trail runner in you coming
It's the future trail runner. We'll get round to that. But let's get it backtrack a little bit and start out where you started out. Where did running start for a younger Chris?
I mean, I think I was late 20s, probably about 29. And so I work for a company based in Australia, and at the time we had a trip over every year. And Mark, who I now run with, he joined the company, and he was like, "Oh, there's City to Surf's on the same week that we were over, which is I think it's a 14K, but it's their equivalent of London Marathon. There's like 60,000 people run it. There's bands every kilometer. It's chaos. So yeah, we flew out on the Friday night. Our conference that we were going to wasn't until the Monday, so we had the Sunday morning was City to Surf. So yeah, just had to run a little bit more in the run up to that. So that would have been, I think, August 2018. And then around the September, I think I was just continuing running a little bit more, and that's when I stumbled upon EH3. So it all started around that sort of time. But basically just from EH3, I was all of a sudden running 3 miles every week. And then Dan and Eric and a couple of other guys were doing, we started a winter 10K, which was start and finish from basically my front door. So I had no excuses. And then following on from that, we had just like gently increased the runs with trips out to the Pentlands and seeing how far we could take a little social run group. So
and from there you continue to run then.
Yeah, it
and
just
took it.
became more. I'm sure you were the same when you get to that. Initially, running is hard, but when you get to the point where you can talk,
Yeah,
like suddenly everything opens up, and then
yeah.
suddenly I could explore further places, little nooks and crannies. Like Edinburgh's fantastic for running around, and then as well just meeting more and more people.
That's certainly, it was something that kind of regularly comes to the kind of forefront of my mind. There's one of the routes that I used to run a lot when I first started out regular running, and I was trying to do 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers a week, and that was hard for me doing a 5K. And you get people now kind of say, and you'll probably get it as well, they ask you, how do you manage to run X distance each week? And I'm probably in the middle ground of distances, but I used to find it very difficult. Um, and now it is, my distances are a lot higher. It just becomes natural just through the regularity of it, really.
Yeah. So what I did this the second year was a really fun year for me. I there was a I was trying to find a way of doing this, but basically I was like, how do you add up? And there's so many ways of doing it now, but in 2019 there wasn't really much. So there was a website called My Virtual Mission, and you could put like 2 points on a map. And each week I would, I had Strava, but you'd have to log in and actually like re reapply your run from that week every week. But you could just see it totting up across the week. So John O'Groats to Land's End, I can't remember what the total number is, but it works out about 25K a week. So 2018, I think my peak week was maybe about 27 to 30, but then I'd have like 3 weeks in a row of nothing. So
Mhm.
it's just like 2019, I just want to be consistent. Um, and that was a fantastic way of doing it because I could see, okay, I'm 20K behind. I'll do a couple of 30K weeks. Um, and the route, like, it was brilliant. The route came across Forth Road Bridge. So the old Forth Road Bridge, which you can run across. So I actually did that point at the same time, like I was actually on the map. And then so I did my first half marathon that year, and then I think I ended the year with like a 23K. It was me really pushing it at the time.
Yeah.
But it just set things up pretty nicely. Um, well, obviously things changed 2020, but doing that sort of consistency challenge across a year was a really good way of doing it.
And really kind of drove you then to, as you say, things changed certainly in 2020. But was that then maybe where you pivoted from the middle sort of distances to the distances that you are, I would say, known for running now for those that know you?
So 2020, you just had a lot more time in your day.
Yeah.
So, you just, I had a breakup in 2019. So 2020, I had all the time in the day, like, especially once you were allowed out more than half an hour. So, and it was such a really hot spring that year as well. So I
Yeah.
would easily just go out and, I would run and walk. I would generally like run as far as I could in one direction, and then just walk it back,
Mm-hmm.
just enjoying being at the house really. So, yeah, the distances, it took me a long time to get distances properly, and I still don't really run them mostly. Um, but it's just being patient and taking time, enjoying being at the house and seeing new places.
At what point then did you sign up for? Now, I know that my question is coming up next, but I've forgotten the name of the first ultra that you did, and you did tell me the story about it.
We
What
can't repeat the name of the first ultra I did.
can you say where it was? Because I want to ask you where the so where anyone that I didn't know that chris.runs.a.lap.
Oh no, sorry,
That's
that's a completely different one. That
was
one,
it right?
yeah.
Okay, okay. I
Um,
thought you said that was the first one, the one that it was you got very close to
no,
completing and then you didn't complete. Is that right?
uh, yeah. So the first one I did was it was essentially a lockdown.
Oh, right. Yes, yes,
So
yes.
it was at the time Rat Race did I can't remember, like the Ultra Tour of Edinburgh or something like that.
Mhm.
But being rat race, it was extortionately expensive, and I just didn't think the route looked that great. It's a bit like, what everyone says about Edinburgh Marathon. It's not the best route considering the city that we're living in.
Yeah.
So I'd obviously spent most of the lockdown just finding all these little connecting paths and railways and back streets that connect all the hills and all the way out. So from right in the center of EH3, just ran connecting up all the little trails to the hills out into the Pentlands, most of the Pentlands skyline, and then coming back along Waterleaf Trail as well. So it was a great day out.
That's just reminding me, Chris. That's the one that you had someone come and meet you, didn't you?
Yeah, so Blair, who ended up running EH3 with me for about a year or two, um, I think he was unemployed at the time or between jobs. So he ran 11K out to where I would join Waterleaf. And that was like after I'd been out and around the Pentlands. So I think it was about bang on my 42.1. But like coming across the Pentlands, I had those 40 mile an hour winds that me and Patrick had up on the cliffs. I had those as a headwind coming across from Turnhouse to the Kips, which is a pretty hefty point to be hitting those winds. So I was ready to. I would have actually dropped out and got a bus from Balerno down on that side, but Blair was at the pub. I was already running like an hour and a half late, so I had to continue to the pub. Sat down, had a pint of the pack of crisps with Blair, started talking about bus routes, and he said, "No, we're not getting the bus." He's just like, not a chance. We're running." So yeah, it was a very slow run back, but he made sure I got it done.
The first one was, yeah, it was a self-imposed. You tortured yourself just for fun, and I get that any event you sign up for it is just for fun, but you usually have the medal to look forward to at the end of it. That one was just you heading out, setting a route, and going for it, and seeing how you got on.
Just seeing what was possible, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it was actually fourth time lucky. It was my first attempt at doing it. So, yeah, we'd had. I think the first one I made it about 2.5 kilometers, and it was so I hadn't even left the city, and just feeling a couple of niggles. I was just like, no, I don't want to go up into the Pentlands feeling like this. And then the other two, I think I was like I think I took Fridays off. Had a really quiet Thursday night. Was in bed at 8 o'clock or whatever. Woke up at, I think the plan was to set out at 6, so the alarm was set at 5:30. And then, like both times I tried, I would just suddenly look at my watch and I was still on the couch at 10 o'clock. Just overthinking, completely overthinking. And then the fourth time I had a bottle of wine the night before, slept really well, overslept. So that was half an hour of the hour and a half I was late getting to Blair. It was, but yeah, it just showed me like overthinking things is, taking a race too seriously. You can ruin it.
Here's me just calling you in the introduction crazy, and then to try and do the same thing 4 times, and eventually getting there because Blair wouldn't let you throw in the towel. That is effectively crazy. So you took that though, and you did go to an event with a medal. That's the most important part for me of any event is I'm not going to do something unless I'm getting a medal. Different running a half marathon on training run or 30K, but anything over that, I need something to give me that incentive to do it. And you signed up for. Now, is this the event you signed up for where your name comes
Yeah,
from?
so I signed up for well, I did the Dramafin marathon. So after my own ultra, I did Dramafin full marathon just to check, just to check it wasn't a fluke, really. So I ran that at a really comfortable pace with my buddy Matt. So that felt good.
And that year it wasn't underwater like it was this year.
Oh, it was no, it was a beautiful year.
Good.
Almost every year that I do an event, it's um, really cracking weather. So I was lucky. Um, After that, just to step up the distances a little bit, I did there's a Northumberland Endurance Life one. Um, I spent most of winter really breaking it about that one because it goes along the coast from I forgot the name of the castle, Annet Castle, up to Bamborough, and it's like at least 30K of coast beach running north in winter.
Very
So like
exposed.
if you had a proper southerly wind,
Yeah.
like 30 mile an hour ice blast with sand in it, it's a horrible day. But we had I think we had about 10 mile an hour tailwinds going up. So so yeah, that was perfect. And then yeah, I took on the lap in May 22, which went mostly okay.
I would hope so with a tailwind too.
No, it's a full circuit. So
All right. Okay. So you had a headwind eventually. Maybe just not.
it
Maybe
was
just a little bit
I
more
think it was just
protected at the.
it was just a calm sunny day. It was perfect,
All
but
right.
it
Okay.
got a little bit too hot. Yeah, weak Scotsman going down south. So
I think we had this conversation at the meal though, because effectively you've done a lot of these events though have been self-imposed, but you have done quite significant larger events that we have featured on the podcast in the past, like Glasgow to Edinburgh, and just before we hit record, you were kind of recanting about listening to the guy that won it the year you took part and the difference in what he was doing
it's
to
a
what
different
you were
race.
doing.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
different race.
a different race. So what he was having energy gels, you're saying, and you were eating pies.
Along those lines, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I had time to get hungry. So yeah,
That's one of your kind of key photos on your post on your profile is Glasgow to Edinburgh with that absolutely plate size of a medal, which is to me that's something that I'm looking at and going that would be great. That'd be great to do that. I don't want to do the race. I just want that medal. Um,
you got to earn it, Steve. Come on.
I got to earn it exactly. But that you've for all the success that you've had at events like that, you have had events where they haven't gone right, like your own self created routes. There have been events where you get there and it's just not your day, and like I kind of hinted at or mentioned previously, that's where your handle of Chris runs a lap comes from because you didn't quite get round the lap. You had what something like short, like 10 kilometers left.
No,
Uh,
it was 5K.
was it 5K, right? So it's even worse. But at
It was
that
like
point, you
yeah,
were completely gone.
it was 70K into a 75K. It was I mean, what appealed to me about this particular race is um it's so there's as good as no cutoff. It's a 24-hour cutoff for 47 miles. It's um it's 47 miles. So most races that sort of distance, the race director will, tweak it around and make it 50 because that's a big round number.
Yeah.
Whereas they just went, this is the best route that we can do. And it happens to be 47. So I just really like those aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like the feed stations are incredible. It's pretty good value. I think I was around 80. I'm doing it next year, and I think it was a little bit more now, obviously, but really good value for what it is. And it's just a very inclusive event. All sorts of like there's hikers that do it because of the time that you get to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really hot day, and I just didn't have hydration right. And then it got to this point where I was just going slow and going backwards. And I think it was around 20 minutes a kilometer on flat was the best I could do. And they were saying, oh, it's just a park run to go. But, it's a 2.5 hour park run. The way I was going. And
That's
like
right.
about to
Yeah.
get dark. And it just wasn't, I wasn't there to suffer through and have the worst possible day. It's, yeah. So like, I just pulled out. It's what I was happy with. I'd gone further gone further than, you know, twice twice further than my initial thoughts of pulling out. But yeah, I'll be back and get it done next year. Hopefully, have some sunny weather again, and I'm sure I'll
get
go
some
better. A lot
revenge.
more experience in the legs. So yeah,
Now, why couldn't you have taken that sunny sunshine to Loch Ness 24 then? So that was another event where you probably put everything you've learned over the different events and over the last few years into practice, to use common sense to when you had had enough as well. You didn't, you had a target in mind, but at the same time you didn't want to absolutely
you're,
abuse your body
you're
to achieve
you're talking
the
about
goal.
learning from experiences. The weather, the forecast running up to it was sun, right? I'm sure,
Yes,
like
yeah, it was glorious sunshine.
2 weeks out, it
From
was glorious sunshine, and I was worried about that. Really, the heat for okay, it's not 24, it's a 24-hour run, but it's not going to be heat for 24 hours. But I was like, need to get through the afternoon. So that was every last bit of planning I'd done was around the heat. I had we had two of the girls were coming up on Saturday morning, and they were going to the shops and picking up bags of ice, and they still did. So I wasn't like I was only planning to take one pair of trail shoes, and that was just for walking around camp on the Friday night. Like I just didn't expect it to go as awful as it did. Yeah, it was a horrible, horrible weekend. Um, I just I think I made it to 10 hours, and it wasn't my peak. It wasn't my limit, but my feet were just so wet. They were, I could have gone another 2, 3, 4 hours. There's no way I could have gone 14.
Mhm.
And it was just a case of how bad do I want to feel the end of this? How long do I want to have to recover? Like I wasn't going to be any more proud of an extra 3 laps on that. So
Yeah, because
yeah, we just pulled it.
everyone's coming away with the same medal, no matter how far you do. As long as you do one lap, you effectively have earned your medal. And then at the same time, you're not
It's
competing with
not yeah,
the
it's not a
guys that
medal I
are
would
defending.
bang on with much,
No, no,
but
no.
yeah, I think it's like it's the same with when you see people posting DNFs online. It's always I always post it's the right decision,
Yeah.
and it's like for me, it reminds myself that if I'm going to go into something, even like a round of the Pentlands, ego can push you past what you should do, and if you know that you'll pull the plug on something when it's not right, it gives you the confidence to go into something harder
Mhm.
because you know you're not going to be silly with it. You've got like when I had the ultra tour that I planned out myself, um, there's like escape routes off every hill with bus routes back, and that was all planned out as well.
Yeah.
So there's always ways out, but you got to try things.
And it's good though to have someone like yourself where you're not hiding the negative, effectively negative that some people would look at it with false positives all the time. Of I got, and I suppose I'm bad for that because it's more recent than not. It's a lot of PBs and a lot of look. I'm just doing all this amazing stuff, but I do try and post the negatives as well. But maybe because I post so much more than you do, it's washed away. Whereas for yourself, you don't post a lot on your own profile. You post a lot on the EH3, so you see the positives with the they're not failures, but the DNFs. So you get a true and honest picture of what you're
Yeah,
doing.
I mean, you did like for me. I was watching your training plan and how you were reacting to it, and there was definitely negatives, and you've said yourself a negative in doing a 16-week plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like a full structured plan is hard, and not just on the running, but on it's a big commitment on everything.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, it's very difficult. That was a lot more difficult than a 12 week had ever felt, because I had to, yeah, 12 week, you're still balancing with personal life and with work and how your body feels and how your mind feels. But 16 weeks was just, that was crazy. It just felt like it was going on forever. Talk to me about how you train though for your events, and because yeah, you don't post that much, and so you don't really show much about your training. But how do you train? Is it predominantly EH3 is makes up the majority of your running, and then you do bits and pieces yourself, or how does it work for you?
it's a fair bit of that. Like I just work off one main rule of thumb, which is weekly mileage as target for the race. So like back when I dropped out of the lap at 70K, my peak training at that time was 70K.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like bang on the exact same number. It was exactly when I was like, I'm done. And I was like, okay, I've seen that written, but for me, that 100% made sense. So like going into Glasgow to Edinburgh, I think I hit 95K or so. Loch Ness, I was trying for 160. I think I did 130. I had the, I just had things come up on the Sunday, but I still felt fine to go. You know, it's like I want to do these training weeks feeling comfortable because you want to back it up and go into the next week as well.
So are these runs then? You're saying distance. Are you predominantly just running that distance? You're not really worrying about intervals or speed sessions or fartlek, or it's just try tick off
It's just
X distance.
how I can fit them in, and it depends what's going on. If there's
Yeah.
long social runs at 7 minutes a k or trails and whatever, then that'll be the pace I do. I think the way I think of it is if I'm out running trails, there's going to be that stuff built in naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be technical bits where you're forced to only go zone one. There's going to be bits that are fun, so you just absolutely blast it out at top speed. There's going to be hills that you run. There's going to be hills that you walk.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, I don't feel a need to put structure in it. I think the one thing I do, and I did it today. So one of the guys, Ralph, he runs so through EH3 just does intervals on a Tuesday night, and like one person will turn up or two people will turn up, but he'll post the session that they're going to do. So I'll go out and run it just as a virtual thing. I live to I'm out on the edge of town, so I just can't make it in every night. Just
Yeah.
depends what's going in. But yeah, I'll just go and run this session on a Tuesday if that's what I feel like. But um, on the particularly on the like really big heavy volume weeks, I've been run commuting a lot, which is a great way of saving the time. I think I'm basically a 40-minute bus or a 45-minute run to
Yeah.
work, and I've got showers and stuff there. So it's like, well, if I'm trying to pack in all this time, the commute's the obvious place to throw it in, and you can extend it as well.
I did like that when you told us that at the meal. I think you were either telling Patrick or Gary.
I've been
Um,
speaking to Gary about it because he's been doing,
yeah,
yeah, he's been, especially in his run up to Glasgow to Edinburgh, because I think he's a canal based commute.
yeah. I mean, a
Uh,
lot of his runs on his selfies are mostly at a canal. Either that or he just likes pushing people in or something. um, yeah, so that training sounds very very similar to my own then, because I'm using, well, for at least for Amsterdam, I was trying to use Kaizen as the basis for my training, and it was just distance X week. It would vary depending on what pace I was doing, but I didn't really take that into
yeah,
consideration. I would look at the beginning of the week and say, I've got to do 45 kilometers this week. And I would just
I just
mix my
think
runs up to do
like in
that.
terms of long term, keeping running long term, you can just fit it around things
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Like I'll have weeks when I can only do, I think last week I was back down at 20K.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the way it works. Like I don't want to feel guilty about missing stuff. but
Yeah.
then I'll have a much more productive week this week.
Yeah.
So
Let's go back then a little bit to EH3 milers, because I want to give that a little bit of time as well. How many people would you say you're up to at the moment at the busiest sort of time? Peak summer
I mean,
is most popular.
summer is actually not as busy as you'd expect. I
Okay.
think the last 2 weeks have actually picked back up again, and it's just like dark nights and nothing better to do. And I think also just like people like running with other people more at this time of year
Mm-hmm.
than you're a lot more comfortable going out for a run in the dark yourself over the summer months than you are at this time of year. So I think there's that kind of brings a little uptick, and obviously a pub's nice and cozy in the winter, saves your heating bill at home. So yeah, we're hovering around the 50 on a normal Wednesday, 20-ish on 15 to 20 on the Thursdays, and then we've got Sunday coffee runs when the guys put those on, and um, the big weekend days out when I can make them happen. We generally just cap those at 30 because they're um, it's a good enough number, especially for like 20K across the hills. And you're gonna have the more people you have, the more likely you're gonna have an accident or something. So it's just trying to keep that all under wraps. But yeah, overall the groups were 250 plus active people on the chat group. So it's been a really, really strong, solid year. And I know a lot there's a lot more competition. There's a lot of other groups. Um, so it's great that we're still staying relevant in amongst that, which is good.
I would say like I don't really have feelers on a lot of the groups in the area, especially because so far south. But it is a very large group compared to the ones that I do know about. How do you keep track of it all then? Is it through Halo, or do you have other means to kind of know who may or may not appear? By which I mean as well, if someone then wanted to get involved, how would they go about getting involved, and then how would you keep track of them?
Yeah, so we do everything through Halo. So Halo, basically previously we've used a mix and match, and not everyone's on Instagram these days, not everyone's on Facebook, not everyone's on this or that. Various other systems charge money, which is obviously difficult when you're trying to run a club for free.
Mm-hmm.
But Halo is absolutely fantastic for running this sort of group. The guys that run it, I've had calls with Eric. He's very he listens to all feedback. They've implemented a few things to make things work better for us as well. But it just lets us run events and also gives proper channels for everything. It's cut down on like if you have a specific event and you have a chat for it, following on from that, you can get cliquiness in traditional ways of doing things, but Halo just punts everything back into the group, and it's so the whole group just functions a lot better. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, and then it just channels you through to Halo, where all the latest, and I just have to do one update in there, which is good.
Do you have an issue at all with because like, with a lot of groups, you're always going to have cliques and people that will only run with other people, or that side of almost schoolyard crap effectively. Do you have much of that?
No, no, we don't. It's like just the way the nights run. It's you're kind of it's hard for that to exist in the
Okay.
way that we run it. It's very much one big group, one big happy family, and everyone that comes through is
Chill.
like, yeah. I think um, the thing I've been thinking recently is people talk about like-mindedness, but I think it's not. People aren't like-minded. They've got a shared interest.
Mhm.
but there is so much difference there's so many individuals and all sorts of backgrounds and everything. Which is, I think it's good to mix that up with not just the people you generally meet and chat to, but a full cross section of everyone. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's like leave your egos at the door. What good spread of society in a way, from your doctors to your shop workers to your drivers,
Far too
etc.
many doctors. Yeah.
Far too many doctors. All right. So if you've got an issue that you can't get to the NHS, head along to the EH3 mileage and become a member so you can speak to a doctor.
No, none of them. None of them. It's the same. I think we've got about 10 physios, and none of them will do anything. So.
That's not so fun, is it? What's the point of being in a running group if you're not going to use your skills to help other people? So you're saying then you've got the Halloween thing coming up, and you try and keep things fresh and different for the group as well. Is there much else happening? You just kind of keep your events ticking over. You had the Pentlands a few weeks ago, did you?
Yeah, we had the Pentlands. Well, it was technically Carnethy, who's an old one of the more established they're a hill running group in Edinburgh, but they had a race that got cancelled very last minute due to some landowners not being particularly open access to the countryside friendly. So a few groups went out for a social run because we were all still allowed to. So we had
So you had your event without having the event.
exactly, and it was an awesome day. There was 20 of us up. We had four out on the full Pentland Skyline route, which is a fairly hefty day out. It's around 17 miles, and I'm going to cross imperial metric, sorry, but 17 miles and about 2,000 meters of elevation. Yeah. So it's a fairly big day out for city folks like us. So we had four out on the full Pentland Skyline, and then I went out and found a route I called the Edinburgh Skyline, which was 12K and about 500 meters. So a much more we had two people out on their first trail run, their first ever trail run. So we were able to just introduce trails to a few more people, just make it a little bit more open to everyone. And then, there was about 200 people back in the pub at the end. So, it was a good showing of support for these sort of events going on.
Can I suggest a new name for that one instead of Edinburgh Skyline then? Can you name it the Fisher Price Skyline, because it's like your first skyline before you then go up to the.
You might as well rebrand the EH3 milers the Fisher Price running group.
Oh, good.
No, we're not going to call it that.
No, you're not going to call it. That's mean, isn't it? Yeah. Then I suppose because you obviously influence a lot of people and you use a lot of your guidance and stuff to kind of steer that group. So for me or for anyone else that's thinking about it, like going back to what we're talking about with your ultra marathon cap back on, but also with your group leader outfit on as well. If someone wants to get involved in more ultra running type lifestyle, whether it's in the Pentlands or not, what would be your advice? Because I've had 4 ultra runners on. I've not actually asked them a similar question to
that. I'd say slow it down. Like one of the big things I enjoy about running ultras is I'd say it's probably the most social way of running. Like when you do your ultra next year, Steve, you'll find for yourself it's just a much more relaxed pace. You'll be chatting to everyone all the way along. When you get to an aid station, it's not just down a glass of water, smash a gel and go. You're standing around having a cup of tea. It's a much more relaxing way of, obviously you're doing a very big day and a very big effort. and the guys at the front are absolutely racing the thing. But for most people running ultras, it's not this intimidating thing that people make it out to be. It's like it's a nice day out. You'll be speaking to people, you'll be enjoying it. So the way to get into it, I mean, I think how we do it through EH3 is something I like a lot, which is I've spoken about the Thursdays, but then the other ones we do are we do brewery runs every so often. So these are I do them about 20 kilometers. They're 3 hours long. So you can tell from that most people are of a standard to take part in these.
Social paced.
Very social pace. There's time to walk. There's time to enjoy the views at the top. There's time to chat. We'll have, we might go from one village to another village where there's a shop, and then across to another village where there's a brewery.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be trains or buses. Everything will be all sorted. You'll know, we tell you where the last toilet is, where the next toilet is. It's just all sorted and taken care of, and they are kind of like mini ultras in a way.
Okay.
The only difference with an ultra is you do probably like 3 of those.
Yeah.
And you'll eat a bit more real food. But yeah, they're really not as intimidating as people make out. And I think it's like, I find that running ultras, I can train with other people a lot more than I could if I was running road running.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoy about it.
Yeah. I just need to get people to run with now.
I mean, like, I'm talking about all these. There's been a lot more run groups in Edinburgh, but there's quite a few popping up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to 2 people in the last week who've been asking about, what's the best way to go about things and insurance and all this sort of stuff. And there's I'm in a group called Run Club Collective, which was started by Jess, who started Run Talk Run.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just bringing like run club leaders together and talk through all the good, the bad, and the ugly, the best ways of doing stuff, the worst ways of doing stuff.
Learn from other people's experiences, effectively.
But yeah, these groups they're growing everywhere, and I think it's like, I know I'm far from the only one who doesn't feel at home in a athletics setting and an athletics club, and obviously you've been in the pub with me ranting about
yeah,
what I call corporate communities, but
yeah,
I think it's nice to have a place, like I work a corporate job. It's nice to have a place that's away from, it's just people putting runs on for fun. And
yeah. It's different having, I suppose, then a name to your group, but then running under a brand, it has implications.
It's just a group of people putting good fun nights out on, or days out.
So the people that are coming along for the fun of it rather than anything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good mindset of people that come along.
Cool. Then I suppose sticking on the topic of ultra running, what other than getting revenge on that final 5 kilometers, what else is coming up for yourself on the horizon? Do you have much more planned, or is it you really just?
I actually have a road marathon, which is unbelievable. But I won the lottery last year, so I got into London Marathon. So I'm currently learning to run again. I've got in 4 weeks' time, I've got the Blast Running Water Relief half, which is a very downhill half in Edinburgh. But I think that'll be my first actual half marathon run since June last year. And by that I mean like actual non-stop running. So like even, in an ultra, you'll run 10K to an aid station, then you'll stop off for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking actual non-stop running. So I'm just learning to run that bit more. So I'll have London Marathon next April, and then 3 weeks later I'll have my return to the lap. And let's see, later in the summer. There's obviously a lot of things floating around. There's talk of a return to Loch Ness. I'm not sure if I'm. I think what I did with the lap is nice. I think having a 1 year break before you go back to the scene of the crime is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in the early stages of working out what's next, and I think I've got a good one, but I just need to work it all out at the moment. It's probably going to be something a little bit different, something that will keep me interested. Um, but yeah, next time, Steve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not up for sale yet either. So
No.
I haven't committed myself to go, even though it is my local. I haven't committed to it. It would be very nice to go back again, and the amount of effort and time, and the time I have for the management team as well. But I don't know. I've had the mixed, the really sunny hot day that was terrible to run in, and then the super wet miserable day which was terrible to run in. The only way it could get worse is if it was like Amsterdam and had hailstones. But I would hope in August we wouldn't be having those. So you're keeping busy at least. May I make a recommendation for your half and for your road life then?
It's going to be a pair of Nike shoes.
Get a pair of Nike shoes and make them orange. And you too could be um, chasing down the elites.
I didn't know you were sponsored by Nike.
I'm not yet.
Walking away and they'll give it to you.
I mean, I've had a Nike sponsored athlete on. I mean, they must be taking some sort of notice by now, I'd hope. That's all good. That's all sounding positive. A bit of variation as well, which is always nice. It's not just the same old, same old. So no, grand. I think that's, unless you've got anything else you want. Do you want to add anything else to the conversation before I let you get back to your evening?
No, I think we're all good. Just thanks, Steve, and obviously just a massive thanks to everyone I've run with over the years. It's been a lot of fun times, and surely many more ahead.
Before we go, then, just as a reminder to anyone that is interested in EH3 or finding yourself, where's the best avenues to do so for both EH3 and, yeah, as I say, your profile?
Yeah, so EH3 is we're on Instagram as EH3 Milers, and I think it's the same on Facebook. But through there, there'll be a link to an app called Halo, Heylo. And then if you just sign up there, add a profile photo and a name, then you'll be in, and you can join any runs as you wish. I don't think we never actually did. I tell you the Instagram. I mean, it's, you can follow it if you want. It's runs.a.lap. I only started it because I took over EH3 a couple of years ago, and I had no idea how social media worked. So I just started it for doing that, and that's why there's no selfies or training background, but there's an occasional tidbit of wisdom, maybe, at least in my book. But join it if you want to say.
Yeah, it's a bit of wisdom. I like your profile. It's just, like you said, it's got the rough with the smooth. But you certainly put a lot more out on the EH3. I don't know if that's just you or whether that's the.
Just don't have any time left after.
Yeah, running more than one profile takes its time. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, dude, and thanks for supporting the podcast from pretty much day one as well. It's been awesome to finally kind of meet up with you more recently, and yeah, our 2 interviews as well.
All good. We'll see you next time you're done.
See you soon.
Cheers, Steve.
And there we have it. If anyone was ever in any doubt of there being some genuinely really helpful, awesome people in the running community, Chris is the evidence of that. In fear of repeating myself, I just have to say again, Chris has been a massive help to my journey towards the massive success that I had in Amsterdam. But moreover, he has influenced and helped a lot of people in the running community, and not just those who run with the EH3 milers. It goes far and beyond. Around the globe, he is there to support everyone. And if you don't follow him, I would highly recommend you give him a follow and just show your appreciation to an awesome character. I know he'll be listening, at least I hope he'll be listening, seeing as I hope that all guests listen back to their episodes. But hopefully he is happy with the results of the re-recording. Personally, I thought the original was spot on in its own, but I'm here to make sure that the guests are happy as well as myself. If you are in the Edinburgh area and you are looking for a social running group to get involved with, you can get in contact with the EH3 milers, as Chris kind of indicated at the end of the interview. I would highly recommend it. I mean, I follow a lot of people who are members of the group, and they have such amazing things to say about not only the group as a whole, the social events that they host, but also the other runners that go along. They're from all walks of life. They're all abilities. It's not just all racing snakes, but it's all just social plodding. There's a good range of abilities, ages, and, as I say, walks of life there. For me, I will continue to stay in contact with Chris on the regular, but especially as I look ahead to possible events for 2024. Now, at the moment, I still don't have any drive to sign up for another marathon, at least a road marathon. But as I settle into a routine again, as my mind kind of thinks, what am I going to do next? What's my next goal? Chris knows fine well that I am thinking about ultras, and I will be calling upon his knowledge, his expertise, and his experience if I do sign up for anything. I know that my Who Dropped the Dibber Team 1 buddy Lorna, also a local to the area, has gone and signed up for the Ultra X 50 Scotland. That is an event that has been previously mentioned on the podcast because, of course, the lovely Kaylee, the Happy Diet, ran that this year, and previous guest Emily in the Outdoors also ran it, as we found out in a previous episode. Being that it's a local event to me, it runs from Fort Augustus to almost the campsite of the Loch Ness 24 at Doors Village. It would be rude not to at least give it some consideration. I also have to bear in mind that when I finished Amsterdam, I had a lot left in my tank. Sure, it was a flat marathon and obviously on road, but when you consider 50k, when you consider what a marathon is at 42k, I'm pretty confident that I could achieve a non-stop 50-kilometer run. I know the route. It's very similar to the Loch Ness marathon route, just a lot of trail, and you've got a really tasty, as I say, spicy hill actually at the beginning of the event. But I'm quite happy to get into the ultra way of life and walk up the hills and run down them when I have the ability to do so. But as I say, I will be calling upon Chris if and when that time comes. Of course, mentioning a previous guest there in Emily in the Outdoors, my guest in the next episode will actually be a returning guest as well, and Emily's partner in crime from the Adventure Blether podcast. I'll, of course, be welcoming back my good friend of old and partner in crime for Emily, Hannah Kibble, otherwise known as Han Van Ventures. It was really good to be able to dedicate an episode purely to Hannah and showcase everything that she's got going on at the moment, but also shine a light about how awesome she did at the Loch Ness 24. But that being said, I'm going to draw the episode to a close here, and all that's left to do is share the platforms and avenues that you can use to get in contact with the podcast or where you can find us. We'll start with the means of contact as per usual. If you want to email me, you can do so at thepoint99podcast@gmail.com. You can head on over to our website and use the contact form. That's at www.thepoint99podcast.com. We also have an inbuilt player for all episodes. They are also linked to Spotify. There's a link to our merchandise, etc., all the good things. You can search us on Facebook and find us there. Just search The Point 99 Podcast and it will pop up. And then certainly the final and most used platform, I suppose, is Instagram. And once again, it's The Point 99 Podcast. Please feel more than welcome to slide into the DMs or messages or even the email inbox. Let me know what you think about not only this episode, but the show as a whole. On a similar vein, if you have enjoyed the episode, the podcast, and anything that you've heard, or even if you haven't, it would be great for a review or a rating on Spotify, Apple, or any of the podcast listening platforms of choice. It does help get the podcast out a lot to people that may not have heard of us before, but also it's nice to be honest. I'm not all here for 5 stars. I do like constructive criticism. I do like to hear what you guys think. And I would like to develop and drive the podcast in the ways that are best for the listeners. Finally, I am going to start putting out some feelers. I've got little packages. I mentioned it in previous episodes. I've got little packages with badges and stickers, the holo stickers that I shared previously, and a few other bits and bobs that I'm hoping to share to some of the biggest supporters for the podcast, the ones that are regularly sharing us on social media, liking, commenting, all the good things. I'm just looking to give back a little bit, and they are small little things, but I think they make the biggest difference to people to show appreciation. So anyone that is listening, if you feel like you're justifiable for one of these packages, let me know. But also I'll be hopefully getting into people's DMs in the next few weeks, or at least the next week, to get some addresses and start firing these out there. Otherwise, that's me for this episode. Whatever you get up to over the weekend and the week ahead, I hope you stay safe, enjoy your runs, and you'll hear from me soon.